Ready.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Music Industry Insights Worldwide, Volume 3. And today I'm so happy because I've got one of the most talented, inspirational, up-and-coming D&B electronic artists coming out right now. And it's the amazing Joy. Hi, Joy, how are you?
Hey, I'm really good. I'm really good. How are you?
Not too bad, thanks. Thank you for asking. It's a little bit cold, but apart from that, I'm going there. So tell us,
Yeah, I'm really struggling with the cold as well.
no, it's bad, isn't it? Tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and what you do.
Okay, so I am Joy. My artist name is Joy Doc.
Yeah.
So I'm a music producer, songwriter, vocalist, pianist, and DJ. And I primarily work with electronic music. So drum and bass is my artist project, but all types of dance music really. So that's my main thing in music. And also, yeah, I'm from New Barnet in North London. I've lived here most of my life, so I'm a North London girl.
Same as me, come on, Gal.
Yay! Love it.
And so tell us a little bit more about your background and what you do and, where you're from and your story, because it's super amazing.
Okay, so I started playing the piano when I was about 5. So I've just continued since then. That was my first love, was just playing the piano. So I was classically trained originally. I think that was good because it gave me like a grounding and it gave me like that sort of
Inside.
discipline and stuff like that. And then I just went off and wrote my own songs from there. So I continued my sort of education in music and I'd done a degree at LIPA. I don't know if you've heard of it, the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went there, done my music degree. And then it was kind of like, after that, it's like, what now? When you finish university, it's like, oh, what are you going to do? And it's like, well, that's
yeah, I get you.
yeah. So I kind of spent a bit of time like doing some gigs and working on some things like with my band, but it wasn't really going anywhere. So I said, I've always really had a passion for like helping people and stuff like that. So I decided to train to be a secondary school music teacher. So I went to Middlesex Uni and I spent a few years as a full-time secondary school music teacher.
Yeah.
And I really did enjoy it. I loved helping the kids and I still teach now part-time. And it is such a rewarding, brilliant job. But it takes up all of your creative headspace because you are focused on the kids.
Now, apart from yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then a few years of that, and I stopped for a moment and thought, I need to be creative again. I need, this is my real calling. So like 2000, sorry, say that again.
Like you're losing your soul if you're not following your dream and your passion. You feel like there's part of you dying inside, right?
Exactly. And that's kind of how I felt. And for about 5 years, I didn't produce. I wasn't really writing. I wasn't really doing any of what I do now. And then it got to about 2018, 2019, where I was like, look, I've got to do what I'm passionate about. So then I went back to uni to the ICMP to study a master's in songwriting. And then, yeah, kind of, I wasn't back then, I still wasn't producing for a while. And I was kind of Sophie Daniels,
that's how we met, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of related to that. But she kind of encouraged me, you need to produce your stuff. And I was like, but I'm not good enough. And that kind of goes into probably a bit of what we're going to talk about today, perhaps.
Yeah.
Because there's that kind of stigma, that kind of thing that females aren't seen to be as technical, like to do technical things.
Or even as good as males, right? We're not even seen as equals.
Exactly. So automatically we're like, oh, well, I'm not going to be as good as this producer, this male producer, this, yeah. So I kind of had that sort of as a barrier. But then I got to lockdown and I was like, I don't care anymore. I'm just going to do it because I enjoy doing it. And then that's where I am now. I'm focused. I like part-time teacher and I'm focusing on my music because I worked on my confidence. I worked on like just saying that you can do it. Like introduce yourself to people as a music producer. And then slowly I became a real music producer.
Build your confidence, but no, you're not just a music producer, you're also an artist and a songwriter, because we're
Yeah.
collaborating on stuff too, right? So it's all about collaboration and, you know, building those skills, because I think if you just got one skill, it's not good enough. So you've got to kind of build your skills and diversify and make sure you've got different kind of skills and how you can build that and how you can build on what you already have. So did that kind of, from being a producer and moving over to an artist, did that build your confidence and how you felt about yourself and your self-worth?
Yes. I mean, to be honest, I'll tell you how it all started, the artist sort of thing.
Yeah.
I never considered myself as an artist. I didn't think I was good enough to be an artist. I didn't know, like, I just didn't know I had it in me. And again, touching on something you're probably gonna like talk about is sort of what's been done to address sort of gender imbalance and all that sort of thing in the music industry. If it wasn't for Lady of the House doing sort of a demo competition for music producers, I don't think that there would be any Joy doc. And that's quite a statement to make, but they had a competition where you could just submit songs, and I've been, you know, getting back into the producing, but I wasn't confident enough to release the songs or anything. And they picked out one of my tracks, Sunshine, and that was my debut release. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to create an artist project now. And yeah, they kind of pinpointed my songs that were drum and bass. I also submitted some like house and UK garage ones, but if it wasn't for them selecting the drum and bass one, I don't think I would be where I am. So that gave me the confidence to be an artist, basically.
Full knowledge there, because that's how I feel right now, starting out as an artist, like moving from the business to the artist side is, okay, where do I fit here? Because I love these different types of music and I want to have these different styles and I want to try and incorporate them, but what am I good at? What really is going to fit me? And I think that's where I'm struggling sometimes is, okay, I know where I want to go, but where's my lane and where's my tribe and what do I love in that kind of musical kind of creativity? Because I think that's really important, isn't it? Is that where you really feel confident the most, in that D&B space?
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's about what makes you excited. Drum and bass music makes me feel excited. Well, all dance music, to be honest. Well, all music. Just love all music, but particularly drum and bass music just makes me really excited when I hear it on the radio, when I hear a new song on Spotify, or it just, there's something about it. I feel like it speaks to my soul. It sounds a bit deep, but, and I feel like for you, it would kind of be the same. You know, it's about finding what really speaks to you and what gets you excited, because if you want to make a career out of it, you've got to like love it, because otherwise you're going to get sick of it.
Not about the money, and that's the thing about the music industry. People think it's about money, it's about glitz and it's about the fame, but you've got to work really hard, you know, just to get the ground roots and just to get yourself started. And I think, you know, it's steps, small steps in the right direction, and you're doing all the right things. Like I remember back in the day going back to these D&B parties and going down into the cellar. I'm from Oxford and we used to have those. They were some of the most amazing nights. I loved them. They were fantastic. However, I knew that that wasn't my genre. That wasn't where I sat. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what it's about. It's about trial and error, but also knowing, okay, where do I sit here? What's my musical talent and my influence? And where do I feel confident the most? So with your musical education, when did that start?
Musical education, well, obviously, like I said, piano when I was like 5 years old, started learning, but then yeah, and then just throughout GCSEs and A levels, and then my degree was when I was 18, so forever.
Same as me, actually. But
Yeah.
I look at people in the industry and they don't have that. Do you know what I mean? They don't really have that educational knowledge. And I think I started from a classical background, same as you. And I think that was where I found that structure. That's where I found that deep insight into what music really is, from back in the day to now.
And it's really interesting that, you know, yeah, I don't know the exact stats, but so many of you ask people who are high up in the industry, yeah, they don't necessarily have any you know, like a degree in music. I'm not speaking for everyone, but you know, it's more about the graft, isn't it? It's more about like going for it, going for your passion and just working really hard. And that's what it's all about. But it's nice to have that musical education, and I don't take that for granted at all.
There's been a lot of cuts as well in the musical education budgets for the last 10 years. How does it work now with like secondary schools, primary schools? My music started from primary school. We used to have music assemblies. My music teacher taught me how to sing. She sent me to private school scholarships to win scholarships at some of the best choirs in the world. And if it wasn't for my music teacher, I never started music. So how?
So in it depends on the primary school and the borough and things like that. But in the particular primary school I work in, they're lucky to have a music specialist come in, because there are a lot of other schools that do not have the funding or the budget, and that's a lot of them. So they have their classroom teacher, which obviously there's so many amazing teachers out there. They're doing the best they can, trying to teach geography, science and everything, but they will turn around to me and say, look, Joy, can you help me because on this, I don't understand what this is because I'm not a music specialist. And it's actually, it puts a lot of burden on them, because they feel responsible that they have to teach a good music lesson, but it's kind of not fair in the same way because it's not their specialism. So
well, I'm sad to hear that. And this is another thing I find is kind of making the talent pipeline a lot more for the higher class and for the people that have privilege, rather than people from underrepresented and disadvantaged communities, because I couldn't have done anything else. I wasn't good at English. Okay, I was all right at English, but I wasn't good at very many academic subjects, shall we say. I was good at music, I was good at sports. So those are the two good things I was good at. And I thought, if no one helped me, where would I be today in those areas? And I think that's always stuck with me. And I think there's many children out there that are not good at academic subjects, but they're very creative. They're very imaginative. They think outside the box. And what happening to those children right now?
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, obviously I'd worked in secondary and as well. And just the thought of like a lot of kids being pushed into the idea of just doing like basically not doing any creative subjects for their GCSEs and things like that, and not having any sort of creative outlet. And the kids get really stressed and really tense, and mentally they suffer because they don't have that outlet.
Really?
And they don't have that release. And you know what, I even have some friends now who sometimes say to me, Joy, it's so great that you've got that sort of creative thing. Like they work in their 9 to 5 and they go, oh, it would be nice to have a little creative release. I think we all need that, not just children, adults. Everyone needs some sort, whether that's going to a drama and improvisation class, whether that's whatever it is, like having that creative outlet.
Even at home, just singing along to a song sometimes can just let it out, that you can relate to, that you can put your own personal experience to. Not necessarily the same, but you can still relate to a song in your own way. And it's about being personal, isn't it? And identifying to that. And I think that's what makes music so powerful. So tell me, like, what kind of issues and barriers have you faced and overcome to be where you are right now?
Well, I talked a little bit about confidence. I think definitely confidence and the stigma that comes along with like females are less likely to do production and stuff. Confidence is one, I would say. And then another, you could say financial, because I have taken a risk to get to where I am now, because I could have been comfortable doing my full-time secondary school teaching, comfortable salary, fine, but I'm only a couple of days a week now at school, and well, I teach piano as well, but even still I've taken a financial risk. And that is, I mean, money can be a barrier, because I'm doing a mixture between independent releases and releases through labels, and particularly the independent ones. I want to give my music the love it deserves. I try and put a bit of money into different things, like getting the artwork nice, doing this and that. And financially, it can be challenging. especially working part-time, but I've kind of had to do that to get this
going
off the ground, get this going. Yeah, exactly.
but not just financially, also creativity. Also, your creativity is going in other directions. You're investing that into other people. So does that take away from your own style and your own music and your own time, and how much time you can spend on certain things?
Yeah, what, still doing the teaching, you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, it does limit the time. It does limit the time. But right now, at the point I'm at, where I'm not like touring around the world or anything yet, fingers crossed one day. But
Yeah.
but with the point that I'm at right now, I actually think teaching at school gives me structure, it gives me stability, and it's actually quite nice to say, look, I've got these couple of days where I'm a teacher, and then I go back to my music stuff. When I'm at a point where, oh, I've got a gig like I mean, a gig every weekend with my band, but that's different. If I was at the point where I was actually touring or whatever, then I would have structure in that way, and that would be a different type of structure. But right now, I need something, so it's good for me in a way, as long as it doesn't eat too much into my time.
I love that. And tell me a little bit more about your intersections and how they interact for you succeeding in this industry.
What do you mean by that? So,
Like intersections on your personality and who you are as a person. So your races, if you've got any disabilities, if you've got any being a female. So all those
yeah.
different things that come together. Like, do you suffer from all those different things, like your race, ethnicity, age, being a female, disabilities, anything like that? Do you suffer from any of those intersections all at once?
Not necessarily. Obviously, the female thing is one thing that's a barrier, but I mean, my age, I'm a little bit older now, and I've spent a lot of time teaching, but I think I'm finding now that people are more and more just don't care about what your age is. That's what I found. I went to like a music industry conference recently, and someone said, oh, I'm in my 30s and I want to do so and so, I want to be an artist. And someone on the panel who worked for a major label or whatever, or she might have been even an artist, but anyway, she said, absolutely not. Don't let anything stop you. I think now, if you've got the guts, you've got the passion to do it, I don't think it's gonna. Yeah, so for me, I wouldn't say it's a barrier. I used to think it would have been, but no.
Fair enough. That's a good question. That's a good
Yeah.
question I ask everyone. And then I think everyone that I speak to, I get different kind of answers and responses. And I always learn. And I think this is part of the show. It's about learning from other communities, learning from other groups, and trying to support them as well in their struggles and barriers. Because I think that's really important in educating others. Because if other people are not aware and don't know, how can they support us in getting to where we need to go? Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really important.
And what kind of thoughts and feelings do you have on equality, diversity, and inclusion in the music industry?
I feel like there's still a long way to go. However, it is visible, some of the changes. I mean, I can't speak for every area, okay, but obviously for women in the dance music realm, obviously, like I said, you've got organizations like Lady of the House, who work with females to give them this opportunity, or like there's EQ50, who are also an organization for women in drum and bass, and they do like mentorships where you can, like, if you get accepted onto the mentorship, you work alongside them and a drum and bass record label. So these sort of things, there's more and more of these things popping up, which is really, really positive and really good. And it's not just, sometimes people say, oh, I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to say I'm going to make a change, and nothing happens. But these sort of things where you're actually working with a record label, you're actively working with them, is a massive thing. And so I can see how positive and how much this can change, but there's still a long way to go. I think higher up, in terms of like, I know there are things being done, but like trying to get more females headlining festivals, things like that, that's sort of really where we're aiming for now. And females, and obviously trans and LGBT, you know, like just on the whole, just, I mean, dance music, I think, is really freeing, and you know, when you're on the dance floor, it feels really inclusive. So why wouldn't the whole music industry be like that to suit the way it is? Like, I go to a drum and bass event and I feel like everybody is from a different background, you know, sexuality, whatever it may be, and everyone's accepted, which is amazing, and the way it should be, but it needs to be like that
all the way through.
Exactly.
Rather than just being on one part of the dance floor or just being part of the audience. Totally right, Joy, and I agree with you. So what would you like to see improve over the next couple of years? What's the key things that you would like to see improve?
Yeah. Well, more diversity on festival lineups, because, you know, you look a lot of them, there are a lot of white males who are very talented and deserve to be there, you know, headlining, but we also need, you know, a variety, diversity in
the communities in which we live, don't we, really?
Yeah, exactly. It represents that, and people can relate to people of different ethnicities and whatever it may be. So that's really important. Festival sort of slots. Yeah, and then just more opportunities, like I said, like to work with record labels starting up, and, you know, representing people who are, you know, might find it difficult to get to that path because of barriers in the way. Yeah.
22, I think it was 13% of headliner acts were women in the UK. 13%. I find that,
and that isn't that's really good compared to before. No, that's an improvement. Yeah. So
wasn't it 52% female and 48% men actually in the population? So if we have proportional representation, which it would be, then actually, hold on a minute, women have actually lost 3/4 of the pie to men, and everyone else has just got nothing.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's an interesting argument, though, because one could say, what is one of the reasons for that? Now, I know that there are lots of really brilliant trans women, etc., who are music producers, songwriters, but if we think about how many of there are, and I'm not talking about successful ones in the charts, how many there are at ground level compared to how many male producers, etc., there are, it could be back to that confidence thing, back to the thing, why are there less females? Well, one of the reasons we're perhaps not represented enough, perhaps not given enough chance, but also maybe in the first place, women aren't putting themselves out there because they don't feel as confident to do that.
I think you're right there. And I think it's also to do with the infrastructure. It's not built to support women or understand how we are, or underrepresented groups either, because I think most of the time it's built to support men and built to understand how men are. But then when you look at childcare, when you look at the times that people have to work, when you look at all these other things like body image, you know, all of these things count, don't they? And how other people see you and how you're portrayed. And I think that's another really important fact, is women are not portrayed in the same way as men.
No. That's so true. Yeah.
We're getting there. You know, and I think that's another thing. By having all this stuff and educating others, we're trying to break those perceptions and change people's minds and hopefully inspire other people to come along and join that.
Yeah, and, you know, when I was growing up, there weren't, I mean, obviously, there were big pop acts like, I don't know, the Spice Girls, for example. But in terms of like in dance music, I didn't really grow up with many like female idols in dance music. So I think the more and more everyone pushes as females to just go for it, and then we'll inspire the next generation of.
That's what I think it's all about, but also kind of breaking those barriers, helping people to understand, okay, we've got issues here, but how can we change them in a positive way? How can we support other people through that talent pipeline and ensure that that carries on, that legacy? I think that's really what needs to change, isn't it? Because we don't have that right now.
Yeah, that's so true.
And do you
So
think,
true.
and do you think kind of age and cultural differences have an impact on how equality and diversity has its kind of role in the music industry at the moment?
So say that again. So age and cultural diversity, does it have an impact?
Do you think the differences in cultures and ages has an impact on how equality and diversity is in the music industry right now? So do you think different cultures act differently? Do you think different age groups take equality and diversity differently? How do you think that happens?
Perhaps, yeah, I feel like a little bit sometimes the older generation perhaps are I don't mean this in a negative way, but like set in their ways a little bit and less open to change. Whereas we've got sort of now we've got people who are just more open to change, and I think that's really nice now, and want things to be different. But there are, yeah, I think perhaps people who are a little bit older might not be as open sometimes, and that does not speak for everyone at all, but that could be a point, I don't know.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
that's what I'm looking at. I'm trying to understand, do you think the older people are, and I know from my own position as a trans woman that certain cultures do not really accept trans people at all. Other cultures are more open and accepting to that, and certain cultures are not. But some are in the middle. And I think it's really interesting from where I stand, because sometimes people wouldn't even know. But when I tell people, they're like, oh my goodness. And you can see there's different reactions. And I think it's quite interesting. I've done this 15 years, as you know, and I think, you know, you learn things along the way. And I think it's about opening minds and changing perceptions and breaking down those barriers. And I think I'm really good at doing that, but not many people have met somebody like me before. So I find it really interesting. And I think one of the questions for me is, I can see what I can see, but can other people see what I see? And it's really interesting when I ask different people, actually. So that's the reason why I asked it. So sorry, I confused you on that.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just like, what?
It's absolutely fine. No, it's absolutely fine. And thank you. Like, has being in the industry affected you and your mental health? And have you ever received discrimination or stigma before?
In terms of mental health, because you have to be so resilient, and in music, you just have to be so hardworking. I mean, some people can get success quickly, but that's less likely. You have to really put the graft in. And if you did quickly become successful, you're less likely to be prepared for what is about to happen. So mentally, that is really, really difficult, because it's you have a 9 to 5 job, and you know what the end point is. I'm getting paid this amount of money. I know what my manager has told me to do, and that's it.
Yeah, you've got some stability, because I find at the moment we don't have that stability at all, do we? It's very unstable.
Yeah, exactly. So as an artist, I have to be responsible for myself. I have to push myself, and there was again another sort of music conference I was at recently. Someone said you have to be delusional, a little bit delusional, and I thought that is so right. No, but it's so right, because you have to believe that you're going to get to a certain place before you're there. And it's like, I think it was June of this year, just before I released my second single, I set some crazy goals, and one of them was to get national radio play. And I did not believe, I did not believe that would really happen. But I thought, that's what I want, so I'm going to put that down as my goal. And I have been played on the radio.
Times three, times
Three
four.
times on Kiss FM, yeah. So just things like that, and it was like you've got to just put that into your head and believe it.
Yeah, if you don't believe in yourself, how is anyone else going to believe in you?
Yeah.
Because that's part of it, isn't it? Seeing is believing. And if you can't see, you can't believe.
And that's really tough. It is really tough. It's not for everyone, because, so some people are just like, right, I've tried this for a few months. It's not working. I haven't got a number one. I haven't, I'm going to give up. And then the music industry is not for you then, because
Yeah, that
you,
doesn't happen overnight. That's impossible.
exactly.
That's like
Yeah.
winning a million. If you're lucky, it's like winning the lottery, really, to get that number one straight away, just like that. You've got to put
Mm.
so much hard work in, so much dedication, so much time, and network and build those relationships, because it's about trust. And I think you've got to build trust between people before you can even open the door.
Yeah.
That's amazing. See, all these
Yeah.
advice that the listeners can learn, and hopefully this inspires others. This inspires all these different groups and people that are struggling right now, because this is also part of it, is to inspire and help other people to understand that it's not just them and they're not on their own. So Joy, tell us if they want to find you, listen to your music, find out more about some of your wins and successes. Where can we find you and hear all of that?
Okay, well, my artist name is Joy Doc. So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and it's all and SoundCloud, and it's all Joy Doc
Yeah.
and then DNB. So D, then letter N, then B. So Joy Doc DNB. But if you just type Joy Doc, Joy DOC, you'll find me.
Description below as well. So if anyone wants to listen to your music, we'll put your links, your bio, and everything else. So please do go along, listen to Joy, go and support the amazing work she's doing right now, because I'm telling you, you're missing out if you don't. And thank you so much for coming along, taking the time out, but not just that, supporting me as a person and an artist, respecting me. From the first time we've met, we just clicked, and I love your music, I love your personality, I love your style. And I just want to say a massive thank you, because I respect you so much. You're a trailblazer, and keep up the amazing work, Joy.
Oh, thank you. I really respect you as well. You just you're smashing it with everything you're doing, and you're
Oh,
such a great person, and
yeah.
just keep doing what you're doing as well, because I'm just wowed by what you're trying to do for the music industry and stuff like that.
And I know it's not always easy, and we've got our ups and downs, but I really relate to your story, your challenges, some of the barriers you've been through. Just keep smashing those doors open, keep making those amazing tracks, and yeah, just keep smiling. You'll get.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the chat.
No, it's a pleasure. Take care, Joy. I'll speak to you soon.
All right. Speak soon.